Hi everyone in cloud computing, and welcome to episode 19 of the Cloud Computing Training Show with Brad Nelson and internationally recognized and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialists, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. This week we're excited to have as our special guest Joe Kinsella. Joe is the CTO and founder of CloudHealth Technologies, which provides cloud computing services related to cost management, governance, automation, security and performance. CloudHealth Technologies is one of the fastest growing companies in Boston with over 270 plus employees, over 2,000 customers and $86.5 million in funding. The company has been named a 2018 vendor to watch by Information Week. Hi Dave and Joe, a warm welcome to you both. It's exciting to have you both on the training show this week.
Yeah, it's great. This is Dave. It's great having Joe on the show. He's a legend in the cloud cost governance space, and he'll tell you exactly as it goes. Looking forward to the show.
Thank you, Brad, and great to be here, Dave. Good to chat with you again.
Yeah, it certainly is. Thanks, Joe. And yeah, we really appreciate your time because we've also done two great shows previous to this one for the Australia area and also for the C-suite's management level. So that's it's been really awesome. So look, we're really looking forward to the training show with you, Joe. In this week's show, we'll be talking about cloud cost management has changed dramatically in the last few years in such an accelerated rate, which raises the question, is there adequate training available to allow enterprises to master cloud cost management? Over to you guys.
So this is kind of a key question here for Joe. I mean, I'll go ahead and answer this. You know, is there adequate training available to allow enterprises to master cost management governance in the cloud? And I would say absolutely not. And so I can tell, you know, by the fact, you know, I'm making these lynda.com videos, and, you know, when I do anything on governance, you know, they just seem to be wildly popular because I think that ultimately, I think the enterprises out there are looking to do cost governance, looking to do API-based governance, they're looking to do compliance governance, security governance, you know, all these various things. And there just doesn't seem to be thought leadership, there doesn't seem to be training, there doesn't seem to be kind of a core, you know, set of places where people can go and get this information. I mean, I know they can go to your website and look at your tool sets, but, you know, is there any place that I can tell clients that they can go to that would be kind of a killer place to provide key training to understand cloud cost management, cloud cost governance, things like that, Joe? So I'm putting you on the hot seat here.
Yeah, I mean, we provide built into our product a lot of how-to videos that I think are first rate and really help customers understand how to manage this. But I think you're kind of hitting a broader issue, which is it's a topic that even though we're all talking about it, there's not a singular place you can go, and there's not like a toolkit that you can actually just kind of take off the shelf and put to use across your organization. So, and I think that's not a reflection of you know, anything I think we're all doing wrong. I think it's a reflection of the maturity of the market, which is the public cloud is moving at 4 to 5 orders of magnitude faster than pre-cloud infrastructure and applications. And, you know, 1 order of magnitude change is just a seismic disruption, right? And we're looking at something where, you know, if I go back to, you know, one of business service I ran pre-cloud, you know, I would see maybe 4 to 5 changes per month across that complex business service that would impact cost or might impact security. That same business service in the cloud, I'm seeing 4,000 to 5,000, 40,000 to 50,000 in some cases changes that will impact it per month. So I think that's part of the problem is the complexity is not the same as what we were managing in the pre-cloud world. And so I think there's a need for some transformation and some innovation around processes and organizational models and tools and technology to be able to allow us to share and disseminate the knowledge that we need to go execute good governance plans.
Yeah, and so ultimately, you know, if I'm creating a training plan for a company, you know, as they're moving into cloud, there's security, there's operations, there's DevOps, there's machine learning, there's storage management, there's, you know, processor management, cloud management platforms, you know, all these various things. And governance becomes kind of one of the most important things that they don't have training for, that they can't really kind of get the basics of. And the thing is, if you're smart, and I work with a lot of smart people, they can go off and get bits and pieces of things from different providers and kind of get holistic understanding where, this cloud cost management governance is and where it's looking to go. But it's very difficult for them to find templates, best practices, thought leadership in the space, books on this, training videos. I'm sure your company has some great videos, but something in general that really kind of talks about the space. So in essence, you got to be a bit of a private detective out there to figure out all these various methods, best practices, and how to assemble them into a strategy. I think the good news is we're probably going to figure this out in the next couple of years, but the bad news is we're going to go through a lot of pain to make it happen. So, what would your advice be to a company that says, okay, we want to use your tool. We think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. However, we need a larger reaching governance strategy, best practices that are third-party enabled. We need basically the capabilities of looking at this, and certainly can hire a consulting firm to come in here and do that. But is there one place or several places that you would recommend that they go, that would provide them kind of the basics? And I think of it, there's none. I think that's the answer. But where would it evolve going forward in 3 years' time? Do you think we're going to have the answers for most of this stuff? We're going to have the books, the thought leadership, really kind of in the zeitgeist of how this stuff works. Sorry for the long question, Joe.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I think 2 years might be optimistic on that. I think 3 to 4 is probably more realistic. I hope to be part, and I hope my company is part of the transformation there, Dave, which is, I think what needs to happen is we need to commoditize some of this knowledge, and we need to allow enterprises to start with some really strong public domain templates that allow them to kind of, take them off the shelf, customize them for their organization, and then put them to work. And that's why at the core of CloudHealth, from the very earliest days of building the product, we started with a policy engine at the core. And the reason why we started with the policy engine is at the end of the day, the true power of a cloud computing platform is its ability to govern at the speed of the cloud. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to have near real-time ability to put smart best practices and rules to work across a portfolio of products, tools, and technologies that an enterprise is using. So I think you're going to see some things come from CloudHealth specifically around this point you're raising, Dave. But I think it's a big challenge today. When I sit down and I talk to mid and large enterprise CIOs, and I do this consistently, which is I ask them at the very end of conversations where we've made introductions with each other, what are the biggest challenges that you're dealing with across your organization? And then I hold myself to just kind of shut up and listen for, and invariably what will come up is cloud governance. It's the first, second, or third problem that they're dealing with, or just governance in general across the complex portfolio they're assembling. So this is a real problem that enterprises are confronting. It's a problem that vendors such as CloudHealth are going to have to be part of really shifting the landscape here and enabling more cost-effective solutions to this.
So how much of shifting your landscape will be that we're going to automate or abstract you away from the complexity of some of this governance stuff? So, and this is kind of a test question. So you don't have to be as smart or have smart people around, because we have the ability to kind of automate those things that are typically going to be complex and difficult to do. And I'm not saying this is something that comes in the next year or two, but something that comes in the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years down the line, where ultimately, there's machine learning engines, there's policy-based systems like you guys have, best practices that we're building into the policies. We're getting a lot of the stuff off the shelf in terms of kind of key management stuff. We're understanding the value metrics. And we talked about that in another show where you can actually see how much value that is bringing back to the business. So for lack of a better term, we just don't need to keep as many smart people around. Is that possible, or am I being too optimistic?
No, I actually think that's the future, which is we've spent 30 years with one model, which is when enterprises need to have business solutions, they hire people. Those people bring in applications. They buy tools to manage those applications. And then people and tools deliver those business outcomes for the enterprises. That's been the last 30 years of how we've managed technology. We're right on the cusp of shifting to a model in which we're going to be able to leverage smart software and inform smart software of what our outcome we're trying to drive and our strategy for driving that outcome, and let smart software go make decisions on our behalf to go optimize for that outcome. So it sounds futuristic, but I think we're in this period of time where you're going to see the balance tip, and it's necessary, which is that we're on a if you plot on a graph the complexity of the cloud from say 2007 until now, you'll see that every year it ticks up substantially higher than it was the year before. That's unsustainable. We can't keep having the cloud be more and more complex and to have enterprises and IT confronting greater and greater complexity. So something has to change, and to me, it's smart software platforms that understand your business intent.
So if I'm a new cloud professional, and so I kind of transferred over from doing LAMP stack-based programming, Python-based programming, and starting doing development at Amazon, and then suddenly I want to move into a cloud governance area and cost governance specifically, what would you provide advice in terms of my career path, for the next 3 years? What should I be looking at? What should I be reading? What should I be studying in terms of becoming excellent at cost governance, so I can learn how to deploy your tools and other people's tools in particular enterprises and do so successfully?
That was my question, Dave. That was my question. Why did you just take my question and ask Joe?
Yeah, I was shaming you, Brad.
Sorry, I had to jump in at that point. Okay, over to you, Joe. Sorry, Joe just asked you my question really well.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to give Brad credit for this, Dave. So,
I asked the damn question, man. He said.
Sorry, Joe. I'm going to come clean on this. That was Dave's question. Okay, I was just feeling a bit left out at the point in the show. I just thought I'd jump in and claim Dave's question. So I'm going to.
I was figuring out the question you would ask, and so I went ahead and asked you, Brad.
Certainly, I think some of the pioneering here has been done around thought leadership, around like Stephen Orban's centers of excellence. You'll see a lot of material that I think evolved the early thought leadership in this space, and that's something that if I was building a career in this space, I would spend a lot of time understanding and looking at that. But I'd also engage in the open source community. There's a number of projects around governance that exist in the open source community today, and I think there's a great opportunity, I think, to contribute back to open source, but also to keep your finger on the pulse of what's actually happening across open source. And then I think another part of this is just peer meetings, which is just opportunities to get together with other organizations and other people who are doing this. So one of the things I find is when you look across the bell curve of people doing cloud governance, there's a set of people who are in the upper 5%, and I'm sure you've worked with them too, Dave, which is they have deeply thought about this space, and they're really driving some real great innovation and some real thought leadership in this space. I think getting an opportunity to tap into these people, either at conferences, meetups, in some cases you can even do one-on-ones with some of these people in different forums, is another way that I would grow my knowledge in this space. But I think it's an emerging field, and it's going to be a very big function that will have a number of key roles that will evolve in the same way that DevOps kind of came out of left field and became a major discipline that was introduced into the landscape. I think you'll see the same thing happen with cloud governance.
Yeah, I think it was Cloud Camp and DevOps camps, and some of the meetups that became kind of cult followings ultimately, and how people learn things going forward. And I kind of realized early on that going to the traditional channels for understanding anything about cloud governance, cloud security, ops management, SecOps, DevOps, things like that, it really had you couldn't go to a conference and find it out. You could get some executive who would give you some kind of high level, basic knowledge of it, which would do you no good. But the real, value came from people who are in the field and actually making this stuff happen. And I've kind of met some rock stars over the years, and not going to the conferences, but going to the meetups and going to the, key kind of training that's very informal. It's not, tested. They're not working for weeks on their slides. And they're not dealing with PR agencies, but that seems to be much more value. So you're stating that that's the place to go?
It is. That's where the thought leadership is occurring today, which is it's in the practitioners, it's not in the consultants and advisors. And so I think if you look, across our customer base, I think you'll find, some 2 or 3% of our customers are some of the greatest leaders across the globe in terms of governance in the cloud. And I think there's a fair amount of complexity there, and there's a lot of shifting sands that are happening in that market because it's so new and it's so much in development right now. But I think, if you really want to learn from the people who are in the trenches and actually doing this discipline today at a really high level across their organizations. And you'll find them at meetups. You'll find they have blogs, and unfortunately you have to put a little bit of work into it. But when you find those people, there's a tremendous amount you can learn about governance.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, meetups are a great place for cloud and people that are forward thinking and really want to immerse themselves in the environment and what's going on. I have a question for you actually, Joe, before we close the show off really quickly. When you talk to CIOs, etc., and the C-suites team, for argument's sake, how do they feel when you mention training and the ongoing need for training when it comes to governance and being with a company like yourself?
Yeah, I think increasingly, I think CIOs are looking to partner with a handful of vendors. So, a common trend you'll hear is I'm looking for a few partners and a few platforms across CIOs. And I think increasingly they're being very smart and selective about who they pair up with to help drive their strategies. And certainly training is a pivotal component of this, which is they're looking for a partner that not only can provide them technology and solutions and services, but can accompany it with the supporting training and, kind of post-sale support that an organization needs as its needs grow and change in using the cloud. So I think, CIOs, I think, are very selective now in who they work with.
Joe, thank you so much for being part of the show this week. It's been great having you on.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely welcome. And Dave, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show this week.
Yeah, it's great having Joe on, man. Peace out.
Dave, great seeing you again. Always fun to chat.
I'm sure we'll be chatting soon, Joe.
Yeah, sounds great.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, guys. And thanks for watching, everyone. We really do hope you enjoyed watching this week's training show with David Linthicum and Joe Kinsella. You can get Joe on Twitter, which is @JoeKinsella, and CloudHealth Tech, I believe, is the Twitter, although I've got it wrong on a couple of different occasions. I'm also on Twitter, which is @Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future shows and the previous ones as well, because they're pretty good. So thanks again for watching. We hope you enjoyed it.